Hey Tiger,
Hello.
I think we can wait for Scott to join. He's a couple of minutes late. Yeah.
Yep.
Hey Anshul, Mateus.
Hey everyone.
Hey. Let's start in a minute or two. Hey everyone. Uh, if you cannot find the new meeting notes, I'll just put it in chat.
Hey, Shubham, I think the message that is posted in the Slack, right? That
Yeah,
that still
that has.
refers, yeah, old notes, right?
Yeah, it has link in the old notes, but
Right, right.
yeah,
So that, yeah,
the old one ran out of space. So yeah, I'll talk with the Beijing team and let them know about this.
okay,
Yeah,
sounds
I
good.
just posted in the chat about the new one. Uh, you guys can add to the agenda. Start in a minute or two. Hey everyone. So let's get started. Welcome to community meeting of May 14th, US Europe time zone. We'll go over some status updates and discussion topics. I think the overall status is that we're looking for a RC1 build in later part of this month, late May, and most of the folks are working on testing it. Regarding personal status, I think I'm working on.
Shubham, can you, for me, the screen is very weird somehow. Maybe others
Yeah,
maybe you can reshare.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I have the same problem.
Nothing can be seen here.
Yeah, it's not
uh,
rendering right. Yeah.
Maybe I
Yeah,
don't know.
again.
Scott, can you try sharing the
Yeah, I
screen?
can try.
Mhm. Okay, thanks. Um,
Is
um,
the share working now?
Yes,
yeah.
looks
Okay,
good.
got it. So yeah, I think Shubham was getting his status.
Yeah, I'm working on addressing some feedback which I received on extension of volume policies, like decoupling the snapshot volume flags, whether it should be used for snapshot action or not.
So Yonghui has some feedback, and he's mainly focusing. I mean, following up that PR. So
Okay.
so Shubang, you and Yonghui are on the same page, right? He talked to me about that. I mean the
Yeah,
spec of
I went through those comments. I might have some questions. I'll ping him directly, I think.
yeah. If you have any question, just let Yonghui know. I think he's fine to jump in any online discussion if needed.
Okay.
Just want
Uh,
to make sure that you are not blocked. And just
ye-
in case you don't have time to work on that, also please
mhm.
let Yonghui or me know, and yeah, we can, take over that and fix that to make sure that we have an RC this month.
Yeah. Sure thing. It was just like I think current code is according to the design we merged. So um,
Mhm.
I'll see if I think definitely we'll need some design changes.
Um, Sorry, but you mentioned some design change, but I think the main disagreement is that whether the flag in the backup spec or the action in the volume policy, which one has higher priority? And I think the one in the volume policy should have higher priority, right?
Yeah, but should we use snapshot volumes in conjunction to the snapshot action? I think that's the question. Uh, right now, currently, we need the flag to be true by the user, even if they're using volume
Yeah,
policy. I think
yeah,
that was your input at that time. We discussed, right? We need it as a user input. So maybe I'll have to go through it if we really don't need it. Uh, if we can
yeah,
make it
I
volume.
mean,
yeah.
any design change is a small one, but
Yeah.
I think to Shubham's point, this is a change from the way kind of we had initially intended this design, and that's fine. But it just needs to be made explicit in the design as well.
Yeah.
But I thought the agreement in the design is that the action defined in the volume policy should always have higher priority.
That's
Yeah.
right, but the thing is that the flag for snapshot volumes is in the old legacy way of doing things. It's in addition to the policy. So in the old way with like opt in opt out was you choose
Mm-hmm.
file system backup versus snapshot. But then
Oh,
then snapshot volumes was kind of a big hammer to say, even if the policy says,
yeah,
snapshot based on, opting out of FS backup, uh, if snapshot volumes is false, we don't actually make any snapshots. So I think it's fine to say that doesn't apply to these new policies. I just think, and it
mm-hmm.
might be a one-line change to the design to say,
Yeah.
Yeah.
if the volume
Okay.
policy matches, then
Yeah.
we ignore the snapshot volume flag. That's fine. So Shiva, I don't
Yeah.
think you need a new design PR. I just think that the
Yeah.
PR you make here should make that one line edit to the design to make it
Yeah.
clear. Just otherwise, if you read the design, it's not clear from that design that this applies.
Okay.
I think
I,
we may
I
not
Okay.
have
mean,
even
Okay.
addressed it.
Okay.
We
Okay.
just need to make it clear.
So there may be some misunderstanding, but in our Yonghui talked to me about this, but I think we agreed that the action in the volume policy should be the hammer you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever is defining that should always.
Yeah,
If you
and
agree with
I
that,
think
I
that's
think
the problem with the design. I think the design was ambiguous on that point. So,
okay.
you and Younghui had one idea and Shubham and I had another,
Yeah.
and now we just want to be
Yeah.
clear we agree. Let's make the
yeah.
design statement explicit so that everyone agrees what we're doing.
I think more
Okay,
like
okay.
the documentation PR needs to be updated if you do this.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say both,
Yeah.
but the design, but yeah, the documentation PR is pretty clear. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
we need to be clear to users that if you have a
Yeah.
matching policy, then we will snapshot that volume, even if you set it to false. As long as we're
Yeah.
clear
Yeah.
in the documentation, that's the key.
But you don't have strong disagreement about this approach. Right?
No, no strong
Yeah,
disagreements.
no, I think we're fine as long as we agree, as long as we're clear
Yeah.
in the documentation.
Yeah.
I just think this is
Okay.
one of those points we may not have talked about explicitly enough
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
I
The
think
reason I ask is that Yonghui told me that there may be some tricky changes in the code, but if you're sure that you can figure that out, then I'm good. I think the best way is that the action in the volume policy has higher priority. Yep.
Another thing I would say is that if we're clear on the documentation with 1.14.0, then even if one of these tricky areas of the code doesn't, we don't quite catch, at that point it's a bug, not a design change, so we can fix it in 1.14.1. That gives us the opportunity to make that change later if we don't manage to fix it 100%. Like if there's an edge case, for example, that in the code it doesn't handle, at that point it's a bug we can fix in 1.14.1. It's not part of the feature. Obviously we want to fix it all now, but I'm just thinking as long as we document this as our intention is to make this to work the way we just said, then if some edge case doesn't work, that's a bug to fix in 1.14.1. It's not a design change at that point.
Agreed.
yeah,
Thank you.
I think there is some tricky thing about restore. In restore, if currently,
Yeah.
yeah,
Restore also check that flag, but we
yeah,
check the code. We believe that chunk can be removed without any impact.
yeah. It's
But
direct ignore check. I think we can directly.
we can even remove that field from the restore request as I check the code. But yeah, Yonghui is mainly following up this PR. So if you have any help needed, just let Yonghui know.
Yeah, I'll try to update it and add some comments, Daniel.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody else have any status updates? Mine is kind of more of a discussion topic than status. The backup performance improvement, we talked a lengthy discussion last week. I had a follow-up comment yesterday that I added that kind of responded to the last comment, also kind of keeping in mind the discussion last week. I don't know that we need a long discussion now. Not everyone's on the call, and I'm not sure anyone's had a chance to read my comment yet. And I think Sean may have had another comment he was going to add to kind of summarize his view on this to hopefully get another perspective here. So I think that probably the best thing here is to just have everyone look at that comment and the design again, and we can next week on the other time zone have the following discussion. Obviously, if any comments on the issue are welcome at any point, and if there's any questions now, we can bring it up. I just didn't know if everyone's had a chance to look at that yet. I'm not sure it would be productive to have a long discussion right now, but I can certainly answer questions if any specific questions are there. Otherwise, we can go to Slack and to the PR itself during the week and have this as a discussion topic next week.
Yeah, I think next week is fine.
And again, in the meantime, we can talk on Slack or on the PR itself as well.
Sure,
especially if there are kind of
thing.
small specific questions. The PR might be a good place for that. But for high level questions about direction of design, I think we can resume that discussion in the meeting next week.
Mhm.
And did anybody else have any discussion topics? Okay, I guess if there's nothing else, we can go ahead and wrap this meeting up. And again, ping us in Slack as needed this week, and we can discuss this topic offline, or we'll resume that again next week. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you.